We're live now. Thank you, Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to the March meeting of Council, and just a little bit of news about the meeting and a little bit of safety orientation. So before we kick off, we'll acknowledge the traditional owners of the country. The Hepburn Shire acknowledges the Dja Dja Wurrung as the traditional owners of the lands and waters on which we live and work. On these lands, Dja performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. Recognise their resilience through possession, and it is a testament to their continuing culture and tradition, which is strong and thriving. We also acknowledge the neighbouring traditional owners, the Wurundjeri to our southeast and the Wadawurrung to our southwest, and pay our respect to all Aboriginal peoples, their culture, laws. We acknowledge their living culture and the unique role they play in the life of the region. So just having done that, people will see the exit signs here. The amenities are straight out the door left and down the end of the passage, can't miss them. Excuse me, in the event that there's any problems with any safety in here, the idea is to move to the outside on the street, and please don't leave until we account for everybody. Thank you. Councillors present. We declare the meeting now open, and the councillors present are Councillor Dryling, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Hood, Councillor Hockey, Councillor Hewitt and myself. The officers present, but Councillor, I was going to call you Councillor Holmes, but Brooke Holmes, who's the officer in charge of governance and community safety, well-being. But Bradley Thomas, who's the CEO. Mr. Bruce Lucas, who's the Director of Infrastructure, and Ms. Danielle Clark, who's the governance person. And we've got Mr. John Torres, who's our Director of Planning and Community Safety, as I understand it. I now ask Councillor Hood if you would like to read the statement.
Yes, I certainly will now. Statement of commitment. We, the councillors of Hepburn Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of Hepburn Shire.
Councillor Hood. One apology of Mr. Councillor Tony Clark, who's away. And any other apologies, Mr. No. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations?
Yes, Mayor, I have a material conflict of interest in item 1.2 in the confidential section of the meeting.
That confidential section may change.
Yes, it's currently in the confidential section.
Yes, okay. Now, the next item is not on the agenda. However, we felt due to the situation, I will be issuing a statement. Statements by the Mayor on behalf of councillors and Chief Executive Officer, and this concerns the Hepburn Hub at the Rex. On behalf of the Council, current elected councillor group would like to express our regret to our community of Hepburn Shire for the negative impact that the Hepburn Hub at the Rex project has had on us all. We recognise that some actions during the project have led to feelings of mistrust, and we regret and distress this has caused. We acknowledge that certain actions taken in the past did not align with values of our council and needs of our community. The Hepburn Hub at the Rex project did not deliver the outcomes promised, and we are sorry for the harm this has caused. We acknowledge the impact of past decisions, including the ongoing impact this has had on the organisation and the community. Council has taken active steps to address past shortcomings and has implemented numerous measures that prevent poor project management and improved our governance and transparency. We recognise that restoring the trust that has been damaged with our community will take time. We are dedicated to listening to the concerns of our community and working to create positive partnerships. Thank you. So now we have item 6, which is the confirmation of the previous minutes. So the minutes of the previous ordinary meeting of council held on the 25th of February 2005 as previously circulated to be confirmed. So I'm looking for a motion, councillors. Councillor
I
Hewitt.
move that the minutes be confirmed.
Seconded Councillor Hood. Is there any discussion on those, councillors? No discussion. I'll put those in favour. Those against? No one against. So I'll declare that carried unanimously. Now we come to public participation time. This part of the ordinary meeting of council allows for the tabling of petitions by councillors and officers. 30 minutes for the purpose of tabling petitions, responding to questions from members of our community, members of the community to address council. Community members are invited to be involved in the public participation time in accordance with council's governance rules. Individuals may submit written questions or requests to address council to the Chief Executive Officer by 10 a.m. on the day of the council meeting. Some questions on the operational nature may be responded to through usual administrative procedure. Separate forums and council processes are provided for deputations or make questions to council. Questions received may be taken on notice, but formal responses will be provided to the questions directly. Those responses will also be read out and included within the minutes of the next ordinary meeting of council to make them publicly available. Behaviour at council meetings. Council supports a welcoming, respectful and safe environment for members of the community to participate at council meetings, regardless of issues that are important to them. Council's governance will set out guidelines for the mayor, councillors and community members on public participation in meetings. It reinforces the value of diversity in thinking while respecting differing views and the rights and reputation of others. Under the governance rules, members of the public present at the council meeting must not be disruptive during the meeting, and respectful behaviour includes being courteous when addressing council during the public participation time and directing all comments through the chair. Being quiet during proceedings, being respectful toward the present. Inappropriate behaviour includes interjecting or taking part in debate, verbal abuse or harassment of a councillor, member of staff, ratepayer or member of the public, and any threats of violence. So now we have petitions. Are there any petitions, Mr. Thomas?
No, Mayor.
No. Requests to address council. Public questions. 7.3. The CEO will read questions received in accordance with council's governance rules, and the mayor will respond on behalf of council.
Thanks, Mayor. And tonight we've got a couple of questions from individuals which are quite similar. So we'll ask the questions and provide one response to the series of questions. But if you're in person, we'll also please come up to the lectern. So question one, questions 1, 2 and 3 will end up combining. The question 1 is from John Brereton. Are you here? Yeah.
Thank you, Council, for allowing me the opportunity to present the question, a brief statement before I ask the question. It appears that the bulk of this financial year has gone. We haven't heard much about the cuts required to address the looming annual deficits, apart from the proposed 10% increase in the rates. So my question is, when will we, ratepayers, know or have some idea of what services and works will need to be cut to address looming shortfall in funds, or the deficit, in other words? Thank you.
Thank you. And so question 2 and 3, similar, so I'll read those out. Question 2 from Cynthia Goody. For a year and a half, council has deliberated on service cuts. When will the community have the results? And question 3 from Jeff Millett. What is the process undertaken by council with the community that decides which services will be cut and when? I'll read a response to those 3.
Thank you. Councillors and council officers are currently working through the proposed reduction in services to 2.6 million. This work will be presented to the community for consultation in late April, early May, as part of the proposed council plan, budget and associated documents. Council proposed reduction of services of 2000. The input from deliberative engagement panel, Council Plan 2025-29.
The next, if I could ask Heather Newman to come up and read your questions. If you could read both your questions, and then I have another one that links, please.
Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to ask these questions tonight. My question relates to the financial vision and the town hall. The financial vision adopted at the special meeting on the 10th of September 2024 states, as consistent with community feedback, the following. The financial, I quote, the financial vision details funding of asset renewal is a priority and capital works spend is limited to effectively renewal works only. Asset renewal focuses on managing and maintaining existing facilities, excluding new capital works or building redevelopment. My first question is, in light of the above statement from the financial vision and considering council's current and future dire financial situation, as outlined in council's submission to the Essential Services Commission, how can council seriously justify proceeding with these contentious new plans, the Dalesford Town Hall Hub, a capital works project which, according to council's own brochure, is anticipated to cost between 15 to 20 million or more? My second question is, what has been the total spending to date on this project and projected to be spent by the 30th of June 2025, e.g. plans, architect fees, and where has this money come from?
Thank you. And question from Cynthia Goody, also related. Council advertised a revamp of the Shire offices, Town Hall. Government grants will not be allocated unless council can contribute, which it cannot. How will this be funded? You have a response to those 3 questions. Okay. Someone there, and Mayor, can I just ask you to lean forward as you speak? That'll just help for those watching at home. Thank you.
So, council has been working with communities through a project advisory group, commonly referred to as the PAG, established in early 2024. Developed and progressed Town Hall. We are currently inviting community feedback on the schematic designs, which will inform progress design process. It is correct to suggest that the project will not be able to proceed construction without significant grant funding and we would envisage a council contribution, including the funds in the financial reserve from the sale of the building as part of the funding model. As the project is developed and quantity surveyors cost the project, a funding model will be required as part of the consideration to proceed. It is important that we ensure communities have appropriate facilities in the future, and it is incumbent on council to ensure that long-term planning for major projects continues. This will strengthen our ability to attract external funding from. As our financial position has outlined in years ahead, we do need to be able to support these asset renewals. And we've got a response to this from Ms. Merriman. The 2024-25 annual budget allocated $300,000 from the reserve funding for the concept design phase, and this project with $107,000 spent today.
Next questions I'll also group.
Did you get an answer? Wasn't appropriate. You didn't get an answer.
I thought that answer, so I'm happy to take that offline here. I've recently read, so the next question is from Andrew Robertson. I've recently read the inspectorate's report, or at least a draft of the report into the project. Now that the report, together with council responses to the recommendations of the report, is publicly available, will council show respect to the community by making an official apology for serious errors of council officers and lack of oversight from councillors during that period? Also from Andrew Robertson, given that other levels of government have made apologies for past significant errors and mistakes, if council would not make such an apology, can you advise why not? Rather than launching into inquiry into how the draft inspectorate report became public, from a practical community perspective, a sincere apology seems to be a more appropriate response. In question 9, also related from Harold Hepburn, will council now issue a formal written report? Dollars wasted on the RECs? If not, why not?
And the answer to that is please refer to the earlier statement tonight where we did say we were sorry for that. If it's appropriate, that will be in writing because the statement will be in the minutes and they're in perpetuity. So that's the answer to that one.
Next question's from Sophie Ellis. Many in the Creswick community are increasingly concerned about the safety of pedestrians, local kids, elderly people walking, families riding bikes who have to use Ascot Road and Luttock Road, which remains without a pedestrian pathway up to Elizabeth Street. The petition was submitted to council on February 20th last year, along with letters of support various organisation and business. The gravel walking and cycling track along the Creswick Ascot Road from Gillies Road to the township of Creswick to A, increase safety of children and adult pedestrians or cyclists, B, increase safety of pedestrians on busy tip run route, which also frequents trucks and cars doing over 60 kilometres despite being in a 60 kilometre zone, and C, support healthy lifestyles linking residents and tourists to town, schools, kindred shops, railway stations and places of significance, including the Long Point Nature Reserve. Council voted unanimously in favour of the proposal at the meeting. What progress has council made in relation to progressing this and making it a reality?
During 2024, council investigated funding opportunities for some stage works in response to the petition and did submit a funding application for some stage works in Victoria Street. CAC safety. Incredibly, this application was not successful. Some initial scoping works were also completed in late 2024. In light of the grant funding opportunity under the Active Transport Fund. This initial scoping identified the project likely requires 3 kilometres apart, inclusive 2 creek crossings, likely to cost in the order of we're not able to meet the funding eligibility criteria under the Active Transport Fund. Further work to consider a business case and cost benefit is being progressed as council opposite time allows. delivery of council's current funded capital works program and forward design program.
Question 12 from Jeff Miller. The CEO has assured us over the past few years that the Shire's finances were improving. The SC application states that the Shire will become insolvent if a 10% rate increase isn't implemented for the next financial year. Only 3 months away. Can the CEO explain his previous assurances? They appear to mislead residents pertaining to the financial viability of the Shire.
Right, CEO comments in relation to council's finances over the past few years. Council has demonstrated that the financial position of the Hepburn Shire, like many other councils, need careful management into the future. The financial vision, as adopted by council, indicates a path to financial sustainability. Comments contained in the application to the Essential Services Commission support this fact and note that if the financial vision isn't implemented, then this council in the medium term would be classified as insolvent unless other steps are undertaken. Council fully intends to implement the financial vision. Council is clear that it is fully solvent and is able to pay any of its debts as they come due.
Question 13 is from Ken Warren, I believe 13 and 14 in person.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Be glad to know that I've actually got my question in front of me tonight. For the 2023-24 budget, I made a joint submission with 2 other community members. In this submission, we raised the issue of funding for the Creswick Bike Trail project, commenting that there were huge borrowings and reliance of state government grant funding. We asked the following question: with state government curtailing its spending and blowouts in their major projects, how can it be guaranteed that the state government funding will be forthcoming to complete this initiative, and how much of it is ratepayer funded, if any? The answer supplied was as follows. Further government funding is actively being sought in relation to the Creswick Trails. However, currently the state government funding is 2.56 million, with a council contribution of 7 million. My question tonight relating to the Creswick Trails project: what has been the total cost of the Creswick Trails project to date, and how much has been funded by 1, borrowings, 2, grants, 3, council funds? Second question: what is the expected annual operating costs for the ongoing maintenance and management of the Creswick Trails? Thank you.
Total capital spend to date is 8.63 million, and it's been funded by state government grants, 2.56 million, borrowings as per 2023-24 adopted budget of 4.887 million, contributions, monetary contributions of 0.354 million, council contribution of 0.829 million. Council advocated strongly for additional grant funding. Can't hear it? Okay.
Should I read it out again?
Well, I'm happy to read it out again.
Because I think
Total capital spend to date, 8.63 million, and that's funded by state government grants of 2.56 million, borrowings as per the 2023-24 adopted budget, 4.887 million, contributions monetary is 0.354 million, council contribution 0.829 million. Council advocated strongly for additional grant funding following the cancellation of the Commonwealth Games. We're very disappointed the expected additional grant funding has not been committed. And second question answer, the 2024-25 budget for trails maintenance is 223,000, which includes two full-time staff members responsible for auditing and maintaining the trails, as a minor allocation for materials and specialist concrete contract.
Next question is from Faye McGee. Can council officers provide a statement showing the spread of criteria for participants selected for the current deliberative engagement panel, including postcodes?
Right. Recruitment of the panel was conducted by an independent external partner, Conversation Company. A total of 82 expressions of interest were received through the Hepburn Together project, and 44 residents were randomly selected as stratified sample to reflect the demographic makeup of the Hepburn Shire. Key demographic identified: age, gender, location and identification. Demographic descriptors: Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, disability, sexuality, home ownership, with targets calculated to be proportionate to Census 2021 data. Participants were also able to select interest areas from the following options: land use planning, community services, aquatics, libraries, youth and age services, etc. Economy, tourism, arts and culture, and sustainability. The panel was balanced to have equal numbers across interest areas where demographics allowed. Elected representatives from any level of government, paid employees of any political party, council employees in decision-making roles, and councillors were ineligible to participate in the community panel.
Follow-up from Faye McGee. The panel was to be made up of 44 participants. Is this the resulting number after applying all the criteria?
Yep. A total of 82 expressions of interest were received. The strong community interest in participating in deliberative panel was pleasing to see. This resulted in 44 applicants being appointed. However, this number reduced to 37 as a result of clashes with availability. Final deliberative panel still represents the diverse demographic makeup of Hepburn Shire and the wide range of interest areas. This will be effective in helping shape our strategic direction, which reflects the needs, aspirations and priorities of our community. Council looks forward to considering the outcomes of the deliberative process. Thank you. That ends that section.
I'm with the Dale Street Speedway, and we've been here for 2 years. This is a petition.
Right.
This question submitted or not? No.
Submitted this afternoon, and this.
Sorry.
Commission 3 times.
Sorry, it didn't actually. It had to be submitted by lunchtime today, and it was
10 a.m.
10 a.m. this morning.
This is actually a petition.
Okay, so we can't.
It's not been handed around.
Well, I'd suggest what I can suggest.
2 years after a driver passed.
What I can what I can suggest you do is make sure, and we take this question and refer it to the next meeting, and which we'll take that as a question as submitted. CEO.
Yeah, if you can just leave that on the corner, we'll make sure you contact you. Lots of processes through that item. So Mr. Lucas has been in contact, so we'll follow up. So
we will follow up with the question nevertheless, but need to do a proper process. So we've got some reports. We've got the future Hepburn, and we've got another item here, an officer reports, and I'm looking for a motion, councillors, to move an item in from it being in the confidential section of the agenda, to move that from the confidential section into the public arena. It's a very important issue to the community, and so without going into that, really a motion to move that in, so it's not a matter of dealing with it. No, you don't need to leave. It's not. We're not discussing. So you can.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'll ask it after a motion to move item 1.2 from the confidential meeting into the public meeting.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move the motion that's on the screen.
So
Council, in accordance with our governance rule 25.1, reorder tonight's order of business so that the confidential item 1.2 dealing with the VCAT proceedings is considered as item 8.2 of the open public agenda.
We've got a second of that. Seconded, councillor Cornish. Any discussion about the moving of that? No discussion? That's carried, and that item's now in the public. So we can deal with 8.1. Sorry, councillor Hewitt back in. We've moved that item, councillor Hewitt, into the public thing. Now I can the public agenda. Now we've got future Hepburn 8.1 implementation plan, and to introduce this item is councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Mayor. In September 2024, Council resolved to adopt the future Hepburn Township Structure Plans and Rural Land Use Strategy, which was a significant achievement for Hepburn Shire strategic planning. The resolution included a requirement that a detailed implementation plan was to be prepared for council endorsement by no later than March 2025. This body of work has taken longer than expected, given the several complex considerations involved, and also in light of the recent state government's release of Plan for Victoria and its accompanying housing targets for every local government area has required a review of any implications on council's endorsed strategies. The Plan for Victoria has been found to be aligned with the future Hepburn strategies, but further discussions are needed with senior planning advisors at the Department of Transport and Planning to ensure that council's implementation plan has in principle support. It is expected that an implementation plan will be presented for endorsement by no later than May 2025. It's in the interests of informing the community and transparency that therefore this recommendation comes to council today, because the initial motion that was passed in September 2025 said that the implementation plan would be brought to this council meeting. If there are any questions, councillors, from the officers? Oh, that's not to me.
So any questions, councillors, of the officers?
Yes, I'll ask a question.
Councillor Dryly first.
Yeah, I'll just ask us officers in making this delay and decision that we're not inadvertently or intentionally causing a disruption to the ability of the community to participate in this process.
For you, Mayor Henderson. The answer, Councillor Dryly, is no. This does not affect the full transparency and engagement processes required in implementing future Hepburn. This is purely a report to council to say that there are a number of matters that are still highly complex that need to be sorted out. And what I mean by that is to implement the endorsed strategies is a significant undertaking, will require significant resources and financial commitment. So officers, before presenting something to council, want the maximum amount of certainty it can have from the state government and the planning minister before requesting commitment from council.
Yeah, Councillor Hood.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Follow-up question. Given the critical importance of these town structure plans and what they mean to the Shire, Mr. Torres has quite rightly indicated that a significant investment is going to be required to carry out the rest of this work. The motion or the recommendation before us is that we will consider this no later than May. And I'm making the observation that that is around the time where would we be drafting next financial year's budget. can we, as councillors, be reasonably assured by officers that this implementation plan, along with its budget, will come to us in May or before, and in time for compiling next financial year's budget?
Yeah, yes, and I can confirm that and reassure the council.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Any other councillor? Right, councillor, if there's no further questions, I've got a motion before us. One, that council notes the preparation of an implementation plan is progressing. However, this body of work has several complex considerations will require additional time to complete, including further discussion with senior planning advisors at the Department of Transport and Planning. And two, notes that a detailed implementation plan will be presented to council for endorsement, including an estimated budget for each structure plan and rural strategy by no later than May 2025. Councillor, I'm looking for a motion. Move Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Hood. Councillor.
Nothing further to say, except I appreciate officers bringing this to us because the resolution was to have it in March 2025. I understand the importance of fitting it in with Plan Victoria and the importance of making sure that we have adequate resources to implement whatever's proposed. So happy to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Hood.
Yes, Mayor. As I've already stated, this is critically important work, town structure plans for our community and this organisation. Topics wouldn't become much more important than this. So the fact that officers need more time, particularly to deal with the state government, where there appears to be a lot of moving targets in recent weeks, is a sound approach so that we get this right and that we have an adequate budget to ensure that these plans do get implemented and in a reasonably timely manner as well. So I support the motion in front of us.
Any other councillor? There are no other councillors. I'll put it. Those in favour? Those against? I'll declare that unanimous. Okay. Now we move, now councillor.
I'll remove myself. Yeah.
Conflict of interest. And we introduce this, I understand it's councillor Hockey.
Indeed. The council objected to the granting of a liquor licence in early 2023, following an application for a packaged liquor licence, that's by Dan Murphy's, at 63 Central Springs Road, Daylesford. Along with council, a significant number of community members objected. A hearing lasted over 4 weeks through the Liquor Licensing Commission. Not VCAT. Council engaged a barrister to represent it at that hearing. Community members mostly represented themselves and a number of lay and expert witnesses were heard. Council did not call any expert witnesses at that hearing. Dan Murphy's has now challenged the Liquor Commission's decision at VCAT. This matter is a contest between Dan Murphy's and the Liquor Commission. This matter is not about a decision of council. Council's status is merely as a party to the appeal, similar to that of the community member party. Officers are seeking a council decision on council's extent of involvement and representation for the upcoming VCAT hearing. 2 options were considered as part of this report and a recommendation from officers is provided.
Councillor Hockey. Now, councillors, are there any questions? You've got the report for you. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask a question. The report before us outlines 2 options that council may decide to take. Both options would see the continuation of council's involvement in the process. There is reference to council obtaining and submitting a written submission by a senior barrister. Could officers please indicate what would that submission look like? How substantial would it be? What sort of topics would it cover?
And through you, Mayor, before Mr. Torres answers that one, can I just also confirm for the public gallery and those at home, because the report was in the confidential section, community wouldn't have seen the report that's referred to. Given council has moved it forward to the open section, that report will become public. It'll just form part of the minutes. So that's where council, community will see the full report. Sorry, Mr. Torres.
Through you, Mayor Henderson, Councillor Hood is correct. One option is to seek the assistance, seek the services of a barrister, a senior barrister, to prepare a written submission and present that to VCAT as council's involvement. Should council decide to take that path, the written submission will be quite a comprehensive submission for a start. It will include the background to the matter, including prior to this VCAT appeal. It will include significant detail around the Liquor Commission and the basis for the Liquor Commission's decision. It will provide context for the matter in terms of the site physical attributes, the zoning, the planning and land use setting, and so on. It will provide commentary on the submissions to date, the community involvement throughout the process to date, and so on. Significantly, this submission will provide the basis of council's strong position opposing the overturning of the Liquor Commission's decision, and that will be quite an extensive part of the barrister's submission.
Any further question?
Yes, I have some. Thank you, Mr. Torres. I have some follow-up financial questions. Council's been actively involved in this process for quite some time now. Approximately what has council's expenditure been to date working through this process? If we engage a barrister to produce a comprehensive report that you just described, what would that cost? And if we choose to take a different approach and continue to attend these hearings, what would that cost?
Thank you, Councillor Hood. There's quite a number of questions there. The legal cost to date is approximately $148,000. That's our involvement through the Liquor Commission process primarily, and so on, including legal advice throughout that whole process and so on. And that equated to around 215 officer hours as well to date. Should council take the approach of a submission only with a barrister preparing that, that cost is likely to be around $8,000 for that barrister to prepare that submission. I think one question was officer involvement and what that might amount to should officers be involved from here on. That involvement is likely to take about 100 hours of officer time to fully prepare and engage in the VCAT process.
Mr. Mayor, can I seek a clarification from Mr. Torres? When you say the cost has been $148,000 to date, is that external cash cost paying for legal advice and the like? Does that include officer time?
The officer time is separate. So I noted approximately 215 hours of officer time. That was on top of the legal cost.
The other council wants to ask a question. Councillor Driley.
Yeah, Mayor. Mr. Torres, there's obviously a considerable amount of community interest and investment in this item that we're discussing tonight, and acknowledge the considerable contribution of the community and officers for this landmark case, and to get it this far has been a significant undertaking and will continue to be a significant undertaking for community members to be able to participate in the next part of the process. I'm just wondering, what are the reputational risks for us pulling, just stepping, perceivingly stepping back at this point if we were to take option 2.
Councillor Dryly, through the chair. There's probably 2 components to reputational risk, perhaps the perception of VCAT on council and perhaps the perception of community and stakeholders on council. With the latter, this is quite a sensitive, contentious, emotionally involved issue. It involves a landmark case on a contentious matter of liquor in the community and its potential harm. So from that point of view, should council seemingly step away from this and significantly reduce its involvement, there will of course be potential questions about council's reputation and criticism directed at council. From a VCAT point of view though, this is slightly different, Councillor Dryly, in that this isn't a challenge of a decision made by council or council officers. This is a challenge against a decision made by another body, the Liquor Commission. And so council's legal status in this process is that of any other party. So we're an objector party, like any of the other community member participants in this process. I say that broadly because council is council and we do have a slightly different sort of role. We have been significantly involved in the process to date. We're a statutory body and so on. But from VCAT's point of view, we are an objector party like the other community members. And VCAT may be critical of council, but it should acknowledge our legal status in the process. In any decision handed down by VCAT, I would anticipate VCAT would note council's level of involvement and perhaps form a view from there.
All right, so further question, Councillor Dryly, before. No, can't you continue, Councillor?
So just a follow-up to that question, Mr. Torres, is not an alternative to option 2, given the amount of concern and the correspondence that we've been receiving even just in the last few days around this issue, to keep some physical presence of council at this hearing, and whether it's not necessarily a barrister employed, but at least a council officer either online or in physical presence at appropriate times.
Through the chair, Councillor Dryly, that is a possibility. For those who haven't read this report, option 2 is suggesting that council purely submits a written submission prepared by a barrister and not have any further attendance. So that's the basis behind your question. It's a possibility, but it carries a lot of risk, and officers don't recommend that because it would be very difficult for a council representative to attend, be physically present in the meeting process and not say anything or do anything, even if they are asked by VCAT or other community members on views and that sort of thing. That carries significant risk, and so to allay that risk, officers or the representative attending would really have to significantly prepare and effectively be involved in the process. So I don't believe there's a halfway point here. It's either submission purely or full involvement, whether it be full involvement by officers and or a legal representative.
Question?
Just lastly, so just following up on that, and I respect what you're saying, given that there would be a barrister employed necessarily to produce a report, doesn't that sort of beckon the second part of my question, that an officer would be prepared because they have a report before them that they could respond to?
No, a barrister, their expert knowledge and their preparation of a very comprehensive report, which I touched on before, is totally independent of the officer preparing that report. The officer would have to sort of develop that amount of knowledge and expertise around that written document to be able to talk to it and present it. Just add through the chair that I explained council's status in these proceedings before. It's open to any other objector party to prepare a written submission and simply submit it and choose not to be further involved. So that's available to any other party.
That is what. Councillor Hood, you had a further question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and it's related to the points that have just been made. Will I be correct in saying that if council was to take the path of submitting another report from a barrister, but not attending the hearings, should the hearing have an important question of council, wouldn't there be a mechanism for them to raise that question to council, regardless of whether we were there present in the room?
Mayor Henderson, the answer is yes. Council under that scenario would still be a legal party to the proceedings, and communications, correspondence and questions can still be directed to council and other parties, should they be physically present or not.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Councillor Cornish.
And Mr. Torres, the past representation of barrister in this case, does that carry any weight or any of that information carried over to this present case? Or is it just all new evidence? How much of the past case is going to come into this? Because that's really important, I think, because if a lot of the past council's barrister, public's barrister, whatever that person has reported on and represented, would carry a lot of weight in that way if it was brought into this present hearing.
Good question, Councillor Cornish. Yes, there is some weight, Henderson. The weight is carried through the Liquor Commission's decision. So council's barrister significantly contributed to those proceedings, and it's noted throughout the Liquor Commission's decisions, as did other parties, by the way. And I must acknowledge the significant contribution of community member submissions and their participation leading to the outcome of the Liquor Commission. So what I'm getting at, Councillor Cornish, is VCAT will start from scratch really and review everything from scratch, but take into account the Liquor Commission findings and its formal handing down of its decision. And that's where our involvement carries weight.
So our involvement, sorry if I may again, yes. Our involvement in the past, the members of VCAT, those making the decision, they would have that.
Absolutely.
So I believe that's really important because there's a lot of work that's been done there. Also, another question which I don't think was fully answered before, not through anyone's fault, by the way. How much would it cost for? It's in the report, but people don't have the report yet. The barrister in this instance, not what it's costed up to date. I have the figure, but no one else. And the anticipated time, the worst scenario, actually.
Mayor Henderson, what we have scheduled for now through VCAT is a 15-day hearing. We anticipate quite a number of expert witnesses to be called by various parties. Full barrister involvement throughout that process and preparation as well in the lead up to the hearing. We're anticipating a cost of around $92,000.
So then is it fair to say that the total cost to our ratepayers would be in the vicinity of 250 to 300,000 or 280,000 in total, including staff hours or more.
My maths brain isn't working right now. But
Okay, mine
I think someone's done the addition.
Mine worked well, okay, that's okay. So, from my perspective then, Mayor, I would have to myself weigh up the pros and cons of representation, and support is in many ways. It's not just in one way, but looking at the fact that possibly, quite likely, I've been to VCAT before, so the member would have our previous case, reasons, support for our community. It would have to be a consideration. And on top of that, the extra cost must weigh up pros and cons of that, and the likelihood of
Question?
I thought I could speak.
No, we're not debating it yet. We're just asking questions of the officer.
Oh, I didn't know that was on the agenda, just question time, is it?
Oh, this is interesting. I like to hear this.
You get to do that later.
We'll hear it when you get to speak on the matter.
Motion hasn't been put.
Motion hasn't been put yet, Councillor Cornish.
I understand, thank you.
Okay.
So
Councillor Hopkins.
just one from me, Mr. Torres, then. The barrister at 92,000. There would still, again, be many hours of officer time.
Absolutely. For that scenario, officer support, attendance, and so on.
Anyone else finished? I can ask a question myself. Mr. Torres, are we satisfied that the Liquor Commission will fight this properly? So will they get their proper legal representation? And how important is this matter to the Liquor Commission, given that we've had some changes in the terminology of what they're allowed to consider harm to the community? How does that make the case better or worse? So we've been able and argued strongly throughout this case, I take it, that it's the harm to our community that we're concerned about. It's not a monetary cost, it's the harm to our young people, the proximity to schools, proximity to the pool. So if we take that into account, will the Liquor Commission, like you can't speak for them, but have they raised this issue of harm to our community, and will it make it easier for them to defeat this appeal?
Mayor Henderson, the question of harm under the new legislation is at the core of these proceedings. That was the fundamental basis behind the Liquor Commission's decision. As for the Liquor Commission's case, no, I'm not certain. We're not certain, because potentially the Liquor Commission is going through the same questions about their involvement and their participation and the strength of their case. So I don't know the answer to that. But given how significant this decision is and the challenge to that decision, I would hope that the Liquor Commission strongly defended their decision.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. I mean, it's the best you can give me, but I'd like something stronger than that. Never mind. You can't answer for them, I understand that. All right, councillors, if we're all exhausted, I'm going to put the motion, and we've got that outlined before you as option 2. And that is 1, retain a barrister to provide written submission only, and advise VCAT council will not be in attendance at the hearing. 2, prepare a media release and information for stakeholders advising of council's position. No need to do that. Well, we can communicate the effect of the resolution to the extent necessary. That's not necessary, but we will be doing that anyway through the minutes. But anyway, I'm happy to leave it as the 1, 2 and 3. So do we have a mover?
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. We got a seconder.
Yes, I'm happy to second it.
Councillor Hockey. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as we've heard, council has been prosecuting this case on behalf of our community for quite some time now, in the interests of the health and well-being of our community members. And the motion before us is to continue fighting the good fight. We've heard tonight that council has invested considerably into this process so far, not just in financial terms, very important, but also in our resources. In taking this particular path, I would not characterise this as stepping back or diluting our position. As Mr Torres has indicated, we would remain a party to proceedings and that there would be a mechanism for any questions that might have to come to council in any event. I'm happy to recommend that we go forward with the barrister making, again, what Mr Torres described as a very comprehensive written submission on our behalf and on behalf of the community, and that we properly communicate this process that we're taking. And of course, we cannot escape, and I cannot escape the financial constraints that are very, very real for this council. But I think on balance, this is the prudent way to proceed.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hockey.
Yes, and I agree with that. I don't know that we could assume that the community would support that sort of expenditure at $92,000. And plus, I acknowledge to the importance of our planning officers and their workload at the moment. And so that's why I'm seconding the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish.
So I'll continue. Thank you, Mayor. A few things really. I think I was trying to let the community know clearly exactly what it has cost, and it has been worth that cost. But I myself, weighing up the risks of losing this case if you don't have someone there and paying $100,000, and I think it's slim. I mean, we've fought the hard battle. It's been fought, and I truly believe that support comes in many, many ways, and we do still support our community, but we need to be realistic about the future cost of this issue to our community as well. Also, the question of how many more hours. And again, if it was a case between council and Dan Murphy, I would be thinking very differently, but it isn't. So I don't think I even need to cross my fingers, but then I am an optimist, so let's hope everything goes well. So I support this motion as it is, without any changes, but the support is there, no doubt.
Thank you, Councillor Cornish. Any other councillor? Councillor Dryling.
While I support the intent of this motion, I would like to move an amendment and to include some additional wording at it would include that retain a barrister to provide a written submission only to the hearing and advise VCAT that council may not be in attendance at the hearing, but will provide an officer where appropriate.
Got a seconder for Councillor Dryling's motion? No, we don't have a seconder, so that amendment lapses and we're back with the original motion. If we haven't got any further amendments, I'd
like to speak to the motion.
You can speak to the motion.
Look, I'd just like to again acknowledge the considerable amount of work that both community and officers have presented to get this far, and the success of to get an outcome that recognises specific harm that that alcohol in this situation presents to minors in particular, and that's a conclusion of the commission. And the harm that alcohol does cause in our community not being wanting to be seen as a wowser by any means, but it is a considerable, it comes at a considerable cost to our communities in many different ways. And I think that this being a landmark decision, that it offers a lot in terms of our community benefit. I think that our council can be commended for its continued effort in this space, and I would like to think that we had the financial resources to actually continue to see this through in a physical representative way, and through a barrister ideally. But obviously, given our financial situation, I do support motion as it is, but I would like to see some physical representation of us at that commission, at that the next phase of this. So it certainly is, in my mind, a considerable compromise to only go to a report at this point.
Does the mover wish to, there's been no one against, so no one against, you have to write a reply. So I'm going to put it, those in favour? Those against? That's Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hockey, Councillor Hood, Councillor Cornish for, Councillor Dryly against. It's in a division call. Those in favour? Councillor Henderson, Councillor Hockey, Councillor Hood, Councillor Cornish. Those against? Councillor Dryly. Yeah, I'm going to declare motion carried. And now, so the next item is items of urgent business, and we'll just wait until Councillor Hewitt comes back. Officer's recommendation has been carried. There are no notices of motion. There are no items of urgent business. Are there any items of urgent business? No items of urgent business. So we'll now move to 11, Councillor and CEO reports. So, unfortunately, I didn't have time to do a report put in the minutes, but I can now read this and I will make sure that they are included in the minutes. A fabulous International Women's Day event was held recently that saw just a few women honoured and inducted on the Heather Muir Women's Honour Roll. There are so many women who contribute to our community and have done so over generations. If you know such a woman, I urge you to put their names forward for next year. The organisers who put this year's Chill Out Festival together with council staff ensured that this year's event was the best ever. It was truly a community family event. So many people just having fun and enjoying the circus atmosphere. I can only wonder, after attending the AGM of the Clunes and District Agricultural Society, how much effort it has taken over 160 years to put the show on and run it so well. The old saying of the show must go on is alive and well in Clunes. Speaking of Clunes, the Booktown Festival was a huge success again this year, and the benefit that festivals such as this bring to the economy are huge. Record amount of booksellers with something for everybody. The introduction of the hay bale maze made so many children happy as well. Councillor Hockey and Councillor Hewitt joined me at the Drummond Hall for the launch of the newly acquired sound and visual equipment. Small grant can make such a difference to small communities, and the community expressed their thanks and appreciation. Small communities make up so much of our shire. We're looking forward to Cresfest and Spudfest in the coming weeks. All of this is not intended to divert the attention away from serious problems that face our Shire. It does not matter whose fault things were 8 or 10 years ago, but what matters is how we now take the action to rectify what has happened. Council is putting together a plan with the help of community to go forward. This will mean a reduction in our ability to deliver services at the level we have done, and some of the things we've been doing must now be replaced by delivering the necessary elements of what councils are there for. Our roads and community amenity must take priority. This is sadly at a time when costs for our residents are rising daily. We need to tell the ratepayers the truth, and that truth is we cannot continue to absorb rising costs of fuel, services, materials, and the decreasing government money due to cost shifting. I've taken the time to go business to business and listen to our farmers who are faced with all kinds of pressure. The theme is the same. We've had to put up prices because we cannot absorb costs anymore that have already happened. The cost of fertiliser has quadrupled. Fuel prices are high. Transport costs are spiralling upwards. These are all legitimate arguments. Council is no different. If we're to stay viable, we do need to increase our income. At the same time, be sure that not a dollar is wasted. Council has written to the government regarding their imposition of increased emergency services levy. This also protested that council should not have to collect taxes and charges on behalf of government. The application to the Essential Services Commission rate variation will have to be justified, and council will have to show what other measures we have taken other than simply raising rates. Thank you. The next person to give their report is Councillor Leslie Hewitt.
Just doing my time on Councillor Anderson.
I will tell you.
Okay.
Thank
you, Mayor. March 2025 started off well with the 20th Heather Mutimer Honour Roll being celebrated at the Mechanics in Trentham. Heather gave a well-considered speech reflecting on the history of the Honour Roll and the thinking behind getting it established. 5 exceptional women were inducted: Mary Harvey, Linda Polk, Mary Faith Chenery and Jessie Leggett. Jessie Leggett was inducted posthumously, and her largely unknown story, including her extensive philanthropy locally and at the University of Melbourne, confirmed Heather's point about the many talented and hardworking women who've contributed to the story of our Shire, who are unknown or forgotten. Congratulations to the Shire Events team, Lucy Curry-Chan and Adam Ford, and the International Women's Day Honour Roll Committee, Sue Craven, Linda Gervasoni and Sue Learmont for their work. Congratulations too to the Daylesford librarians for their exceptional work in putting on a rainbow story time, which this year included a performance by DJ Ron, as well as a book reading by Frock Hudson. The books read all have positive messages about being kind, accepting difference, not being rude, not being violent or aggressive, and working things through with each other. Some of the things that in the last few weeks I've thought that some of the adults might pay attention to. Toddlers and preschoolers are not known for sitting at great length of time, and clearly the librarians know their job because they introduced physical activity with DJ Ron. The library was packed to capacity with children and their families, and that segues me, councillors, into the Daylesford Town Hall draft plans, which include a new library. The plans are on view in the library, and there are 2 drop-in sessions scheduled. Rather than continuing my theme, rather than just posting negatively on social media, please go and look at the plans if anyone in the community is listening to this. Provide the feedback and attend one of the drop-in sessions. This stage of the process is budgeted, But any construction, as you've heard from the Mayor, funding is dependent on grant funding. And I just want to make the point that one of the takeaways from the failed Rex project is the importance of undertaking proper planning initially. This leads me to how the month has ended. The Mayor's we've already dealt with the leak of the draft local inspectorate report. There's also been the publication of Council's ESC application for rate increase and the start of the council plan process. Some people in our community have unfortunately conflated these issues, combining them with their own personal grudges and been threatening and abusing to various staff and officers and also to some councillors. Again, none of us are above criticism, but I'm reminded of the message on one little girl's t-shirt at the Rainbow Story time, and which said, "Be kind," and she was. Finally, a shout out to Wendy McKillop, who'd recently stood down after 24 years as the editor of the Glen Lyon News. Thank you, Wendy, for your contribution. This community only works when people step up to do things for each other and develop community spirit.
Absolutely. Okay, Councillor Clark's not here. Councillor Brian Wood.
Yes, that'd be me, Mayor. I'll briefly mention two things. The first one, not only because it's a wonderful project, but it's a great example of teamwork. That is the $400,000 grant that will see the installation of a battery at the Mechanics of Trentham, which will provide much needed resilience and backup for the ever increasing number of storms we have and interruptions to the power supply. And it was a great example of teamwork and collaboration between council, the Trentham Sustainability Group, the Central Victorian Greenhouse Alliance, and some funding from one of the local community banks in Trentham. That will assist the community greatly and provide some resilience for the power supply. And the second item is last week I conducted a community meeting, and Mr. Thomas, our Chief Executive, was in attendance as well. There was about 90 people there. A general message in response to community concerns was to draw attention to the significant opportunities coming up in the next few months for public engagement, community input through as we draft our budget for next year and the long term, as we continue with the town structure plans, and as we put a council plan together. So that message was loud and clear to the community that there is opportunities coming up to have your say. And of course, a major focus of that meeting was council's financial outlook, and in particular the looming cuts to services and costs, and also the rate increase, the submission that's gone into the Essential Services Commission. So there was a very healthy, constructive set of questions and discussion through that meeting. And people, I'd like to think, and I'm quite sure, are better informed and know of their chance to now give input into that process. So that was a positive initiative, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hood. I did miss out Councillor Pat Hockey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go back to you. No stone unturned.
I'd like to table my report as it appears in the agenda, in fact, but just take a moment to comment on Booktown. It was an extraordinary event this year. The volunteers and the organisers and the booksellers were talking about it being the best one in 5 years. The crowd put it, in my mind, as compared to Chill Out. It'd have to be compared to Chill Out, but certainly perhaps the largest event in the Shire. And 140 odd independent booksellers, which was a new record. And but the volunteers were extraordinary, and there were very few of them. The town punches above its weight to run such a big event. And so many people have got on with their lives today, and Booktown is a distant memory, but the volunteers are actually still working today and tomorrow, packing down. And it's treacherous to pick out one person, but Dale Betts organising the setup and the pack down was just crucial. Without him, I don't think the event would have happened. So, yeah, so an amazing event this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Huckey. Councillor Shirley Cornish.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I was away for quite a bit of this month. Unfortunately, that trip was all with hospital. I decided to run for my loss here because I missed out on two very important events, and both events are connected to the committees that I chair, being International Women's Day and also the LBGT community and Chill Out Festival. So I missed them and I'm very sad about that. So my apologies again to the community. Look, I've attended our usual briefings, meetings. I don't think I missed out on too much while I was away. But one important, and I've taken a great interest in the World Heritage UNESCO Goldfields submission from our council and surrounding councils. And I did ask a very important question to Mr. Trevor Budge, and he's the World Heritage Strategic Projects Officer. And I received a response that I don't think other councillors or the community would be aware of. The question was, if someone was buying, I won't be too long, Mr. Mayor, it'll only take me about a minute and a half. If someone was buying a property, how would they know it was in a World Heritage Site? So the response is currently a Section 32 vendor statement and planning certificate can apply for World List, apply and would list the relevant planning scheme, the zone of the property, any overlays that apply, including the heritage overlay, and site-specific controls such as an individual heritage property listing. And if the property was listed on the Victorian Heritage Register, a reference to the planning scheme maps should also clearly indicate the controls that apply through the appropriate notations. It's a very important issue, he says. A person should be able to identify these provisions. If a property is part of a World Heritage Site, it should be clear by referencing the planning scheme, maps and ordnance. And that was my point really, that it should be clear. And when would it appear if it does? It's an important issue. At this stage, he doesn't have a definitive answer for me and he's raised the matter on previous occasions with Heritage Victoria, which is part of the Department of Transport and Planning, with whom he's working and his group is working collaboratively on the World Heritage nomination. As a result of my question, he's again alerted Heritage Victoria. He knows the matter is on their radar and will need to be addressed before World Heritage listing could occur. It isn't until 2027, the earliest. There's several ways this could be facilitated in the planning scheme, and he has assured me that he and his group have it under consideration and will keep us informed in due course. So it's a very important question. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tim Diley. Now, Councillor Diley, I understand you recently attended an important MAV seminar. I'm going to allow you, by discretion, 3 extra minutes to do that. You've got your report for 3 minutes, but an extra 3 minutes to give us a little bit of a report on that conference that you attended. Thank you.
Yeah, look, thank you, Mayor. I will give my ordinary report first up and just have got a tabled report in the agenda, and I do mention the success of the International Women's Day event and want to celebrate the honour roll recipients and the participants on the day. I thought it was a fantastic event, particularly the young people who gave very passionate and meaningful speeches, and Heather too on her speech. I also participated in the Chill Out Parade and the event, and I thought it was a fantastic weekend, an important weekend. But I do want to say that as councillors, we know that local government is where the most direct and immediate change happens. We're the level of government closest to the people trusted to make decisions and to impact our communities every day. But with that trust comes responsibility, not just in how we govern, but also in how we foster respectful civic engagement. And I'm partly reflecting here on my experience at the MAV conference on the weekend with some very inspirational speakers. Over recent months, concerns about safety, intimidation and community cohesion have become pertinent pressing. There is growing perception of increasing violence, tension and distrust in the community. The perception itself, whether it's based in truth or not, unfortunately has a real impact on people's sense of safety and belonging. Civic spaces should be places of safety, integrity and equality where respect, solution-focused discussion and creative visioning can occur, not platforms for hostility, misinformation or intimidation. As elected representatives, we must also ensure that our governance remains transparent, fair, accessible and firmly based on principles of ethical leadership. I also support and acknowledge the statement made by Council about the Hepburn Hub at the Rex and the significant concerns and harm this issue has caused. I also recognise that public debate is being increasingly influenced by non-representative voices that do not always reflect the broader community. The challenge before us is to engage meaningfully with our residents while ensuring that the integrity of our decision making is not undermined by disruption or misinformation. This is not just about councils. Trust in government is fragile across all levels. When governance is targeted by misinformation or undue influence, it weakens public confidence in democratic institutions. It's essential that our communities continue to have faith in the processes that serve them. That means being consistent in our principles, engaging with all voices while distinguishing between genuine concerns and those that seek only to destabilise governance. It means creating an environment where councillors, officers and community members feel safe to participate equally in public life without fear or intimidation or harassment. Mayor, I would like to just touch on the MAV report now.
Yes, that's fine.
It's a Municipal Association of Victoria. Body for councillors.
Sounds like B.
MAV. So I was very fortunate as a MAV delegate for council to attend this a conference on the weekend, and it began with a very meaningful welcome to country and Manam Wawa, meaning thank you in the language of the Bunurong people, was expressed at the start. And I also am thankful for being the opportunity to be at that event. The event was about the future of councils, financial sustainability, governance, resilience and community trust. The key themes were adaptive leadership, financial responsibility, ethical governance, inclusivity and the role of councils in shaping the future. Some of the key insights were leadership and governance. We had the Minister for Local Government, Nick Stakos, reinforce the importance of strong governance, financial sustainability and community engagement. He acknowledged the rate capping concerns and the growing responsibilities on councils and the need to address public trust in local government. We also heard on ethical leadership and trust from Dr. Graham Emerson, and he emphasised that ethical leadership is everyone's responsibility. He spoke about the trust as the foundation of governance, which is easily eroded by hard to rebuild. He also reflected on the need for fairness, accountability and encouraging decision, and also the impact of misinformation, political polarisation and declining public confidence in institutions and how councils must demonstrate integrity to counteract this. We also looked at financial resilience and sustainability from Dominique Isola, who's a local government finance specialist, who highlighted the need for smarter financial planning. He urged councils to look beyond rate revenue, emphasising strategic asset management, cost efficiencies and alternative funding models to sustain services and infrastructure. Furthermore, there was future discussion of the future of local government and financial autonomy by Marcus Spiller from SGS Economics, who warned that current funding models are unsustainable and advocated for a rolling back of rate capping gradually, increasing Commonwealth financial assistance grants and expanding councils' revenue base to ensure long-term sustainability. Also looked at diversity, inclusion and resilience. We heard powerful messages from Reuben Berg, who's a representative from the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria, on the treaty process and the importance of local councils building meaningful relationships with traditional owners. We heard from Dr. Angelie De Silva on the impact of online hate speech and misogyny on women in politics, highlighting how it discourages women from participating in public life. She also commented on the resilience of women. Councillor Mohammed Semra, who spoke on the resilience in the face of racial discrimination, urging councils to ensure leadership reflects the diversity of their communities. Community-centric leadership was also discussed, and political change was a really important speech from George Megalogenis, described the collapse of the two-party system and the rise of independents and crossbenchers, and the importance of councils maintaining trust and stability amid political shifts. And we heard from Jess Scully encouraging councillors to balance short-term pressures with long-term vision, urging to set ambitious yet realistic goals while remaining adaptable to community needs. And just finally, Mayor, I'm getting there, sorry. We heard from David Wolfe, who's Parliamentary Workplace Standards and Integrity Commission, who provided insights into governance failures, warning that poor leadership and toxic cultures undermine councils. He spoke also on the need for a speak-up culture, which is critical to preventing integrity issues. And he mentioned councils must proactively build public confidence through transparency and accountability.
So we now move on to a like a motion that council received and notes the mayor's and council's reports. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cornish. Seconded Councillor Hockey. Those in favour? Those against? Declare that carried unanimously. We now move on to the Chief Executive Officer's report. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, councillors, for those reports as well. I do have a tabled CEO's report for the month, which touches on a number of those items and events that you've spoken about, and certainly a real mixed a month for us here at Hepburn Shire, but plenty in the great news in the event space as well, and I'm sure both councillors in the community, and that's part of the reason why tonight's council meeting's a little bit light on in terms of given the significant work that's going into the budget and the council plan as well. So many a workshop on there. It would be remiss of me, councillors, not to make a comment around and echo some of the comments of councillors today, particularly that of the Deputy Mayor around increased poor behaviour by community members, particularly through social media and other outlets as well. It's particularly concerning for our staff, and as Councillor Hewitt commented, absolutely take responsibility and ensure that we don't get everything correct, but the way that community needs to work with us, we'll continue to work through. So a real big shout out to our staff cohort and our councillors as we continue some really difficult and challenging topics, but continue the hard work involved. There's a report in front of councillors for tonight that council receives and notes the Chief Executive Officer's report for March 2025.
All right, councillors, have we got a motion? Moved Councillor Hood, seconded Councillor Hewitt. Those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Okay, we now move to confidential items. So at this stage, we are asking for the closure of the meeting to members of the public pursuant to section 66(1), Local Government Act 2020. Council on delegated committee must keep a meeting open to the public unless the council or delegated committee considers it necessary to close the meeting to the public because of circumstances specified in subsection (2). Circumstances detailed, the meeting is to consider confidential information or for security reasons, or is necessary to do so to enable the meeting to proceed in an orderly manner. So I've got a recommendation that in accordance with 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act, the meeting be closed to members of the public in consideration of the following confidential items, and they are the Glenline Recreation Reserve development,
That's it.
Yeah. So I'm looking for a motion, councillors. Councillor Cornish, Councillor Hood, those in favour? Those against, declare that carried unanimously, and thank the gallery for your patience and indulgence, and forward to reading it in the press.
Thank you, Mayor Henderson. I'll stop the live stream. We'll take about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
We're all good. Thanks, everyone.
Did you come for a reason tonight?
What
was your reason?
I haven't been for a long time.
You haven't been for a long time.
Yeah, I used to be a councillor.
Bradley, you can leave the meeting in there if you want now. Catherine's coming in. So.
Grass cut.
Yeah, can you, yeah, okay, so we'll give you a call.
My council.